to have a look at that, and then I will also afterwards have another blog post, and we share it with colleagues and those who couldn't make it. All right. Welcome to this member call on taking email to the next level. And let me just get started straight away with handing it over to you, Ashley. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. It's so great to be back, and I'm excited to share some of my thoughts around email. I've got a bit of a show and tell. Hopefully you're seeing that now. And now that all of your little faces have gone away, I'm going to rely on you to speak up if you want to interrupt me at all. So we're going to talk about how to create emails that people want. And I want to start by talking about this trust triangle that I've been thinking a lot about lately, because I think it plays out both personally and why people might trust you, and also in emails and why people might want to follow your emails or trust the content that's in that. And it relies on these 3 points: authenticity, knowing that you're real and what you're saying is true; empathy for the other person, that you are invested in them and want to see them succeed; and the last part, logic, that they can follow your logic. So I'll bring this back, but this is something that we try to infuse in our marketing content, and particularly our email newsletters. So I'll bring that back to Cornell, but I'm going to first tell a little bit of a story about what happened at Cornell 3 weeks ago now. On March 16th, we had our biggest online fundraising day of the year, which is Cornell's Giving Day. And on that day, we raised $12 million in 24 hours from 15,905 people. And a lot of the story has to do with email. So here is like a bit of stats. I'm not going to read this out for you, but the email acquisition was about 40% of the day, people coming to the site and making gifts. We sent emails both from the Central University Voice, and then also this CU means college or unit. So also from college or unit voices. And you can see that a heck of a lot of revenue came in. The website itself, I'll show you the breakdown, did close to 5 million that day. And then the way we got to 12 million was by adding in some other big gifts that were sent offline. Not everyone throws down the black card making $1 million gifts. So those weren't transacted online. But you can see the conversion rate on these emails, close to 26%, close to 29% for the college emails, which makes sense because they would have been a more targeted segment to someone who might have attended that specific college or given to that college before. This, for the Google Analytics geeks in the room, is what the website did that day. So close to 5 million in over 16,000 transactions. And you can see that email did a lot of the heavy lifting. Again, you can see where that 26% conversion rate was the highest conversion rate out of any of our other channels. And then this, for my marketing friends who like to see what open rates and click rates look like. So this is for our overall campaign and on the giving day itself. So we do a 2-week marketing sprint to hype up this fundraising event, and then we send quite a bit of email on the day itself. So the average rates, you're not going to be able to average these together because of the number of emails that went out. But overall, all of the giving day messages, close to a 50% open rate on a giving solicitation. We're asking people for money. And the click rate, about 4.5. And the unsubscribe rates super, super low. And you can see some of these breakdowns are still blowing me away. The lead up over like 55% across the board open rate for these emails. So I'm going to explain how we got here, because it's not, you don't just send people emails asking them to give you money out of the blue and get results like this. So I'm going to first compare how Cornell is stacking up against the industry, and I've blocked out my Ivy League colleagues here to not totally shame them, although I will share that these are the peers on this group include Harvard, Columbia, and Penn. And so against our peers, our open rates these are for newsletters, and the click to open rate. So this would be the open rate here, and the click to open rate really we're far ahead of our peers in the newsletter content, emails for events as well. And then you can see really crushing it in engagement emails. So that would include the newsletter, but also any other call to action that is meant to just engage the audience. Really, really strong performance. And so bringing it back to this trust triangle, this is what we're doing in our content with the authenticity. We're making sure that we have a voice and that we're keeping it real. We're not saying things are fun unless they are. We're not saying a program's exciting unless it really is. We're showing emotion and we're using emojis. We are empathetic and really thinking about and trying to anticipate ahead of time what our audience is going to need on that day and try to deliver them something in their email that's helpful. So we really are investing in their success. And then in terms of being logical, we're trying to really be consistent with the messaging, like making sure that our emails are hitting on the same days of the week, that people can rely on us, and that the information that we're sharing is really easy to follow. And so here are our key tactics, and then I'd love to show you what some of these emails look like. High frequency. Since 2020, we have really cranked up the volume of the amount of email that we're sending, and that can be counterintuitive to someone who's looking at a program where the email content isn't delivering. But what we found when we cranked up the volume was that our deliverability rates improved, and that people got into a rhythm of opening and clicking our emails. And so that's been really important for us to maintain. We include irresistible links, or you can call them clickbait. Lots of really making sure that every email that we send has something that someone wants to click on. And that's not just to help improve our click rate, but it's also to improve the habit that when someone gets an email from Cornell, that they're not only going to open it, but they're going to open it and click it. And they have that habit ingrained in their, in their little digital habits that we all have. The next key tactic is really self-awareness, and that's kind of a combination of authenticity and empathy for others. And I'll show you in some of the examples where the language that we use, especially in our opt-out language, is really self-aware. So we say things like, if your email inbox is too cluttered, unsubscribe now. Or if this newsletter is too much for you, please unsubscribe. We really try to focus on having relevant topics. And the way we do that is by doing content brainstorms a whole quarter ahead of time. And when we're in those brainstorming sessions, we're thinking to ourselves, what will be happening in April of 2022? What's the mindset of our audience at that time? In New York, the weather's starting to get nicer. People are going to be going outside more. So how can we make sure that we have solid links and good articles and maybe videos and things that are helpful for people who are maybe starting their outdoor garden or getting outside again? So planning ahead and trying to stay super relevant to what's happening in their lives, and then trying to make sure that we can connect it back to the university. And then the last piece I would just say is solid visuals, making sure that there's something stunning to look at when you're on a mobile device, which most people are reading our emails. They have that same kind of Instagram mindset where they want to look at beautiful images, scroll stopping images. And so we invest a bit in quality stock photography when our own photo library doesn't do the job. So those are all the slides. I'll walk you through a couple email examples first with some of the newsletters that we shared. So this is, I'm going to take you on a journey from this fall. And this is leading right into the new school year. So this was something that probably went out in September. And here's a really good example of clickbait that we do. This is a little easy kind of hack to do trivia. But why would you not want to guess how many apple varieties have been developed at Cornell? And when you click through to here, you go to a simple landing page that gives you the answer. From there, we were sharing how to tap a maple tree to make maple syrup, some fall career resources, people thinking about changing careers. We knew that was happening. And so you can see another digital download trying to help people. Do you need to get organized? We had in a brainstorm thought about what do you do with during back to school time? You buy a new planner. So we created some of those. And so then the next email, now we're trying to bring you back to campus. Again, speaking of calendars, new year, new planner. So the digital downloads are almost always the best, the top clicked item. Whenever we can include an animal photo, we're going to sneak that in there. Here now we're getting into October. We like to do a lot of fun around Halloween time. So again, these kind of show-stopping visuals are catching people's attention. And here the digital download was pumpkin carving stencils with a Cornell flair. Winter.
This is really good.
Great, good. So wintertime, you can see we're back to our clickbait. And in this case, it's not a quiz. It is just asking people to give feedback. And instead of like asking for a reply, we give some prompts here. So what would you choose if you had more time? I would, spend more time, enjoy a hobby, travel. Sharing some feel-good stories. Sharing some video content, learning opportunities. And then the last winter one. So I think you can now get a sense of what our voice is. It's pretty fun. You've got lots of emojis in here. I'm trying to drive people's attention. Really funny photo of a tiny horse that we have on campus that someone could download. This is one of my desktop backgrounds still. And then winter activities. Some holiday cards. And so you can see we're really serving people, trying to give them things, give them a lot, make sure that this newsletter is valuable to them. And then an example of an ask email. It's going to be something really simple. So this would follow in our engagement sequence. Every Tuesday of every week, we send an all alumni email, which is a newsletter. And every Thursday, we send another all alumni email, which is a singular call to action, which is something like this. And in this case, in October, we were launching a big capital campaign. And the message was simple and short and to the point. And what did we want you to do? We wanted you to get the live stream link. I think those were most of the emails I wanted to share. We do have a landing page that I'm happy to send links along where you can see more of the digital downloads that we do. These calendar backgrounds are very popular. All sorts of mobile Zoom backgrounds are very popular. We also do a lot of printable activities like you saw in the newsletters that we were promoting. Coming up for Earth Day, we're sharing this how to upcycle your old Cornell gear, turning your t-shirts into wall art and other things, pillows.
That's funny. So there's a question on the chat. Okay. So just about understanding your audience. Is it prospective students,
alumni,
current faculty staff? I think your audience is exclusively alumni, right?
Alumni, yes. Good, very, very good question. Yes, this is for alumni. And to a certain extent, the donors too, that might not be alumni. So their parents, and spouses that would get on our list. This is an example of one of the emails we sent ahead of Giving Day last month. And the subject line for this was, "You're perfect, Ashley," with nice star emojis on it. And I'm perfect because I've never missed a Cornell Giving Day. And so it's really encouraging me not to miss another day. And I think this is another Giving Day email that went out on the day. The button is "Let's go." You can, again, the same kind of voice that we have in those newsletters are shining through in our solicitations. And then I'll give you a sneak peek of a new email type that we're going to try out next week for people who used to be engaged with us last year, but have not showed up at all this year. We are doing a kind of a rundown of, we're calling it the subject, excuse me, subject line is going to be "In case you missed it." And so personal name, "Hi, we haven't seen you in a while." Again, self-awareness. This is why we're emailing you. Here are the hot downloads. And I did want to show you also where.
All right. There's another question, Ashley.
Go ahead.
From Brian. Do you want to just ask it?
Yeah, ask away.
Ask away, Brian.
Sure, if I can find the unmute button. Yeah, no, I was just curious how the performance is with like these 4 options that you add, like sometimes the fun questions or so versus asking for them to reply or so. What was the performance? How are those performing?
Yeah, they definitely help with our click-through rates. And I would say, so the audience is about 170,000 people that we send to. And we typically have about 70,000, 75,000 people opening the email. And thousands of them are clicking on those types of things. It depends on the person. Some people like to interact with that. Other people are coming for the downloads. Other people are coming for the news stories. But the purpose is really to make sure that there's something for everyone. And again, just having something there that will inform that habit of clicking. So that's really the strategy behind it. We're not so concerned that the performance on that piece per se, but that the performance of the email overall has the click-through rate that we're looking for. And this is one of these opt-outs, like really self-aware opt-outs that we would use this kind of messaging. So at this point during Giving Day, someone would have probably gotten 5 or 6 emails about Giving Day on the one day. And so the messaging is ready to fast forward through the rest of Giving Day. Opting out of Giving Day emails from the university is quick and easy and should keep your inbox clear. So we're trying to hit them exactly where we know the pain point might be. But then we find that if we keep it fun and light, people want to see what else we're going to say. And so they're willing to tolerate more email pain from us.
That's fun. Excellent, Ashley. That's great. There's also a question about frequency. You just said it. If you keep it fun and light, people are willing to tolerate the pain. That's a very memorable quote.
Yeah.
Can you be more specific? Like how often
Sure.
do you send out?
Sure. So since this time in 2020, April 2020, we've been sending 2 emails a week to that audience of all alumni, the newsletter on Tuesday and a singular call to action on Thursday. And since doing that, we've seen all of our performance metrics increase. Another thing that I'll just say about frequency is during difficult times, people tend to pull back on email. And they don't, we don't want to bother their audience. You don't want to burden them. It will be intrusive if we email them during this time. And I'm finding that that's really counter to your communication strategy. And it's instead the time maybe to change the communication, make it more relevant to the time, but really lean into your audience and find a way to connect with them. For a couple of reasons. Sure, they can certainly opt out. I don't think you can offer something like a soft opt out where you could say, if this is not a good time, opt out for the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months, instead of offering them to opt out entirely. But if you're meeting them where they are in that difficult time and providing them resources to help them through it, you might find that you're gaining a stronger connection. The other thing to consider is if you do back off, it's really hard to get back in. And it's hard to make a connection with that person again. They might have filled that connective void with somebody else. And it's also hard for deliverability with the email service providers, where you're going to have to gain that reputation back if you stop. And so the frequency is really helping with our sender reputation too. Great question.
Very good. And then Jake. Hey, Jake.
Good morning. Yeah, this is a great topic for today, and I appreciate your all the information you're sharing. I'm literally going to be sending the first newsletter this week for my company, and I'm the new VP of marketing. And I was actually thinking about starting it by being very authentic about that. Like, it's a house list of almost 10,000 people. We have not, in our 4 years in operation, we have not sent them a periodic newsletter. So what are your thoughts about opening it with a, like, from me, hey, I'm new, I know we haven't done this before, here's how you could opt out if you don't want this kind of information, here's what the newsletter is going to, how it's going to create value in your life, so on and so forth, or just dive right into it?
Yeah, I think that's super important. Telling them what it is, who you are, be as true as you can in that messaging. I think another pro tip for newsletters is if you do take that really authentic personal approach with a kind of like a personal letter to start, I think leaning on letter more than news is a really smart approach for newsletters. But be careful of the length. Really try to edit yourself and say the same thing in as few words as possible. You can still be authentic and be you and be concise. And in that, you're like leaning into the empathy part of the triangle and understanding that someone probably takes 10 seconds to skim that email. And so you're valuing their time by getting to your point quickly. But you can do both. You really can. My personal newsletter, you can find on my website, ashleybud.com. I start with maybe 3 or 4 sentences of that personal intro, and then I get right to the links. Like people are coming for the links that I curate. And then I have maybe 2 other stories to share that I try to keep to a paragraph, the whole story, super, super short and to the point. And that invites people to reach out. And that, from a business, that's what you want, right? You want to like tease it a little bit and then have them come for more. And so you can frame up that things, you can frame up that you're personal in a really like short, concise way. And that's going to invite them to reply and say, hey, this was great, or I want to hear more about that, which is what you're looking for.
Thank you.
Excellent. I think that's what you had for us in terms of slides and examples.
Totally. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's going to be a tricky one to write up. Slides, easy examples. Let's see if we can perhaps take a couple of screenshots in
no
there.
Problem.
But I got this sense throughout the last half hour that there's fun here also, and I think that's really important.
Fun is definitely part of the voice, and what when we think about our audience is really, really broad. people that have studied all different kinds of things. So we can't say, we're going to send a bunch of science content or art. But something that's universal is that we can put a smile on their face, and that provides value. And so that's where the fun becomes important.
Very good. Any questions, comments? Thomas, did you get what you were looking for?
I got a lot of perspectives I wasn't expecting, because it's completely different world of emails we're talking about. That was interesting.
Good.
Very good. Very good to hear it. Any other comments, reflections? Coming up at the end here. I shared the link in the chat. I'm a personal subscriber for a while. I did see now, that's why you're doing some of these tactics. I'm like, because I hadn't seen the work side of this. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I'm wondering why she has downloads and irresistible links. I'm like, I see what you did there. Very good. I think that's all we had. Let's wrap it up. Thank you very much, Ashley.
Thank you. Great to see you all. Have wonderful rest of your days.
Much appreciated. Thank you. And we'll stay in touch, and I'll be back